I am terrible at replying to people, but I'm not terrible at going live at midday every day for Stream Streaks because it's Stream Streak Day 63. Welcome to the Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Welcome to the show. Today I am joined by Liam, as you can see there. Look at that. There we go. I'll do a bit of that as well. Let's get yours up as well, then someone can screen grab the same waifu pose. Oh my god. 14-year-old me would beat me up. Right, so... He wouldn't. He'd just read a book.
No.
So, welcome to the show. How are you? Are you well?
I am tired, but I'm good at the same time. I've just been super busy with work and, mainly work in uni. That's been out of my way, but I've been trying to fit in some hobby in between, all that. And yeah, what about yourself?
Well, we'll talk all about that in a minute. I want to hear about everything that you've been up to in minutia. But I've been great. Thank you very much. 63 days in a row on the stream streak. Really, really hitting it. We've done a 12-hour stream in that time. We've done a day of live coverage in that time. So it's been pretty funky. I've enjoyed myself. I'm happy to everyone who's come and joined us live. Tristan, I see you. He says you're looking gorgeous, by the way. So Tristan says you got it going on. Warmaster, Dad Hammer, MJ Pegasus, and Servitor, welcome everyone to the show. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone that's working with Patreon. You guys have got that real big dick energy. And of course, if you listen to the podcast, please stay hydrated. Hey Nick Pert, how you doing? Right. I've got all my little intro stuff out of the way. I think I've done it. 63 days. What have you done in the past 63 days, Liam? Take us through it.
So my job is apparently essential. That's what I've been doing in the 63 days, and then studying a whole new career because I just quit being a fashion photographer in November. That was fun. And so I've been working and then studying, and then when I am in between, I'm writing lists and then trying to find time to see my partner. And while I'm with her, I'm also writing more lists, and then I try and find hobby time. That's what I've been up to for the past 63 days. And it's been pretty crazy. I've started a new army, and I'm super excited to get it on the table when isolation's over.
Have you ever gone on a date with your partner and also written lists at the same time?
Yeah, always. That's normal. I think before I met my partner, I kid you not, I was on all these Tinder dates and stuff. I was with people, and if I was waiting for the date or on my way there, I literally would just be writing lists. There would be a message to me hey, where are you at? And I'll reply to them 5-10 minutes later because I was just trying to work out how to fit everything in this list. And then when I got to whenever we sat down and had dinner, I would just be they're I need to go to the bathroom. Okay, cool. I'm going to keep writing lists. And I've done it so many times. And then at the same time, I'll be sending it to my gaming group or Chris from Mortally Wounded or Anthony. And I think Dan, Dan Brewer was just aren't you on a date? And I was yeah, it's fine. They don't know.
Well, see, sometimes the date can help, right? Yeah, you're thinking it gets the juices flowing in the head. You think, oh, actually, I really need something to block this because everything in front of me is quite offensive and I don't like it. So let's just get some screens up. Yeah, maybe emotional screens. Maybe that's what you put into your Tinder dates, emotional screens, and in your list you put real life screens. Have you thought about that? And maybe you need to drop your emotional walls and your emotional screens down. That's the best off the cuff dating advice and also list writing advice I could give at the same time. I don't think I nailed it. I don't think that worked at all. Okay, so
I think I had one date though where the girl she was just hey, what are you doing in your spare time? And we were in the city of Sydney, and I was I do this and this, and I also paint miniatures and play the game. And she's what, Warhammer? And I was yeah. And she just goes, I've never actually seen it. So the date turned out to be at the Warhammer store halfway through. And I was what is going on here? I'm this is weird. And then
you should never not be passionate about something. If you're passionate about something, I think people will respect that. And if they don't, they should go home. That's what I think.
It was more for the fact that she was super keen just to go and check it out. And then I found myself, because I used to work at GW retail and stuff, and I found myself doing a demo game for her, and I was oh my gosh, what is going on? What is happening? And It was a good date. Not seeing her anymore, but it was a good date.
Is that because really she likes 40k, and you guys just drifted
It
apart
was
naturally?
it was nah, she was really, really into she liked the painting. She was like really interested in the painting part. And then I think she said that the Sylvaneth book looked pretty and it looks like a good book. And then that was over. So yeah.
It was that was
Yeah.
over. All right. Well,
That was it.
let's talk about you a little bit before we get into what you. I mean, you've talked about some of the stuff
Yeah.
you've been up to, but I got it's the oldest and most boring question on the stream streak, but I've got to ask it anyway. When did you start playing Warhammer and how?
I started when it was all thanks to
Uh oh.
when I was like 11 or 12 and I was obsessed with Lord of the Rings movies. I thought it was the most badass. I thought Legolas was the most badass fucking like character ever. Like the sickest. Do you know that scene where he like rides down on a shield and shoots down orcs?
No, that's the worst scene.
You know that scene in
That's
the
the
movies?
that's the
That's
worst
the best scene. That's the most badass scene. The most
That's
badass scene. Actually, no,
what?
when he took down a mummic, that was the badass scene.
No, there's three
That was a
terrible
badass
scenes.
scene.
There's three terrible scenes in the Lord of the Rings movies. There's the shield one, there's the one where he takes out the Mamelut, and then there's the one where the horse comes and he kind of does a weird one-armed flip
Oh, it
over.
does a weird one-arm flip.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
just
that one
it's
there
just,
was odd.
they have to put
when I was a
three.
kid, I never thought about it.
Yeah,
Like when I was a kid, I never thought about it. And then like as I watched it when I grew up, I'm like, that's a really uncomfortable like yeah, it was like it must be a really uncomfortable thing to do. But
yeah,
yeah.
and also not. Yeah,
I
and
got
not
the
help.
chat on like
I think you might
but yeah,
your
so I
internet
was
might be
obsessed with Lord of
struggling.
the Rings.
You were obsessed with Lord of the Rings, and that was your gateway. Did you start off buying Lord of the Rings models first?
So I got given the Mines of Moria starter set. Do you remember that box?
I do.
It was like the scene from Mines of Moria, so I got that. And then I was obsessed with the Mamagool in the movies, so I bought that as the next thing. And then where I was doing my hobby, like in the store, 40k was huge. At 40k, and I picked up an Elder Ring. And then I hit high school, and then I think it was like when I was like 14, got my first like girlfriend, and I was like, nah, dropping it. I'm more interested in girls. And then did high school, and then had my own income, had adult money, and then I walked in, and then so what actually happened was my mate Robbie from Sydney he came up to me and says, "Hey, let's pick up another hobby because we've turned our old hobbies into jobs because I was a photographer and he was a photographer." So we're like, "Yeah, cool. We need something to get off." I said, "Let's play Pokemon trading cards," and he said, "Let's paint Warhammer." So we went into the city and we bought a deck of Pokemon cards and some Warhammer to paint. And then what happened was I got obsessed with Warhammer and he got obsessed with Pokemon cards. And so we pretty much switched it. And then ever since then, I got back into it. I got back into it through 40k because that's what I remembered when I was a kid. And then I think I played 40k for like 3 or 4 months. And then one of the retail staff members, do you remember actually Jordan Goodchild? Actually, you probably met him at CanCon.
Right.
He was also working at GDub at the time, and he was just like, "Hey man, check out Age of Sigmar." And I was like, "Oh, what's it like?" And he gave me a quick demo, and the coolest models out of that range were the Kurnoth Hunters, and I was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll buy it." And I bought myself like a Sylvaneth Start collecting box, and I then just got obsessed with Age of Sigmar, and then I had my first tournament in 2020 now. It was 2017 or something, my first tournament for Warhammer. And then everything got addictive.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute because you've ended up playing a lot since then. I just want to say a big shout out to some of the people who've just seen us join the chat. Adam Mumford of the Plymouth Troll Slayers in the house. He just organised the Tabletop Simulator event that we did this weekend and is organising in conjunction with Honest Warhammer another one in 2 weeks' time, which is exciting. We'll be doing the coverage for again. So excited about that. The Hobby Hobo, how you doing? And also Smorgan just finished watching Phantom Menace for research purposes, and he wonders if it's worse than The Hobbit. It's definitely better than Rogue One, though, and that's what's really important here. Yeah, pod racing, yeah, little baby Anakin being super hilarious, obviously, and then Darth Maul. How is that not better than terrible Rogue One? That's The only
You didn't
question.
like Rogue One?
It's awful, start to finish, end of. Like just at best, it's mediocre.
But
Best, it's
can I
mediocre.
can I just say though, it's better than the other three films that came out afterwards, or like the other films that came out. Like the Solo film was terrible.
No,
Like I hated that film.
I hated all of them. They were just awful. Tell me the plot line for a Star Wars film, but don't include the word lightsaber. Can't. There's literally nothing else to them. They're awful. That's it. Right.
I literally was like trying to think. I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. Can't just go without saying lightsaber.
Anyway, let's not talk about that anymore. The stream streaks are mainly 10% Rogue One bashing at this point.
That's really
okay.
good.
Yeah, everyone in the chat can have your own opinion about it. That's fine. It doesn't. You don't have to be right all the time, and often you aren't. And this is one of those situations. Are you getting Archie? No, I'm not getting confused with anything, mate. Like, oh, shut up. Also, I'm being told in the chat. Let's just move on and carry on with Warhammer. My film review channel will be coming soon, and I imagine based on the responses I'm getting now, very, very few reviews. Oh, the honest film reviews. Is
the honest No, I was gonna say just the honest shitstir reviewer. Because you just like start reviewing stuff and then you just cause a fight in the chat.
It's a genuine review. Have you watched Snowpiercer on Netflix? Have you watched Snowpiercer?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so Snowpiercer is a genuine... Yeah, oh my god. A genuinely good sci-fi movie. Get into a bit of Snowpiercer. Yeah, made on a budget of like £8.50. Yeah, or whatever it was made on. But, like, anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. What's your favourite Pokemon, Twitch chat and Liam? And then we'll go back into Warhammer.
My favourite Pokemon?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Are they asking, is it the original 151 Pokemon?
That's just, original 150 only.
The original, it's a 151 because Mewtwo's 151. But the original Pokemon that I was obsessed with what was my favorite? I had so many. I can just say that I always started with Squirtle because Squirtle's the best. Charmander's basic. And yeah, that's pretty much what I can say about Pokemon. There's so many that I liked. Let's go with, what's the most emo-looking Pokemon from the first 150? There wasn't one.
Gengar?
Nah, I'll just say Squirtle. Gengar, yeah, but he had it's weird that he just into licking. It was weird. It's like a fetish. It's weird. You know what? Let's go with Cubone. I think Cubone was the best.
Also good for memes.
He just cried.
Yeah. Okay.
He's great for memes. He's great meme content.
He's great meme content. Let's go see what everyone else in the chat is saying. Smorgan, I sold my shiny Charizard for $36 in 1998. Rolling in the cash back then. Mewtwo, Snowpiercer is sequel to Willy Wonka. Propagation, you clearly are mental. And then Hookapin, thanks for subscribing. Need a King, says Smorgon. Smorgon? That's the new Smorgon. Rapidash, says Scrivo. Charizard, spelling not exact, says Archie. Sandshrew, says Tristan. That's interesting. Bulbasaur from Dadhammer and Onyx. Giant fucking Rockstake. Blastoise, Magikarp, Haunter, Chimpokemon. It says AOS Coach. There you go. And Absol is an Emomon. Okay. I don't know what my favourite was. I quite like... I don't know if you ever watched...
I'm just looking at the 150 now.
Well, Mewtwo has got some of the most badass quotes from the movie. And now let's talk about Warhammer, shall we? There we go. We've all spread our wings. So you got into once you got into Age of Sigmar in a big way. What armies did you gravitate to, and how did you approach the community? What did you think of the community when you got into it?
So the big thing that I was really into with the community was so the Sydney Facebook page had this league happening. I didn't get into the league, but you could see all these games happening. So I was like, cool, there's an active community, which I thought was really cool. And so I got into it and I started with my Sylvaneth army and I kind of stuck with it because I was just there's so much you can do with it. And I ran the Narut Lawmaster Durfu build for quite some time. And it got me to Masters. So my first year of playing competitive Age of Sigmar, I was already into Masters, which I was like, what the hell's going on here? And then I also picked up Flesh Eater Courts as well. and I ran Flare Spam before it became cool.
So?
And
Was that before the new book or not before the new book?
this is way before new. This is before they had artifacts and stuff, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Like before they got given artifacts in like the GHB and stuff, I'm pretty sure. Or unless it might be just after they did or something. There was something where it was this weird. Oh no, no, it was just before they had. It was in a weird time with Flesh Eater Courts where there was no real support. So you just had to run Death Allegiance with Flesh Eater Courts. And I ran Flare Spam, and I played that for one tournament for a team event, and I had one person rage at the list, and then I won all 5 games, and I was like, yeah, this list is boring, so I gave them away. And then after that, I went back to Sylvaneth, and then that's when everyone realized that Sylvaneth was like my true love, where I was like, this is the army that I like. And then I started playing Daughters. When Daughters got announced, I started Daughters, and I played them for a while. There was a time in the scene in Sydney where there was 3 people playing for Best Daughters badge, and that was Smorgan, Elfbro, and myself. And
Who came out on top?
Who
Who came out on top?
do who do you think? Let's have a guess, and I'll let you know in 2 seconds.
No,
I'm pretty sure it was Smorgan.
as the best Daughters player
it was
in
Smorgan.
Sydney, or
No, in Australia. Like, Best Daughters player in Australia was Sam Morgan.
well, at that time.
At that time. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when Daughters first came out, Smorgan came out on top. There was a time where it was just like us 3, and then I dropped off Daughters and picked up Sylvaneth again, and then Flesh Eaters.
Is it true?
Yeah,
I don't know if it's 100% true, but is it true? I heard that when Smorgan did finally win it, he picked up his Marathi, threw it at you, called you a peasant, and stormed out. Like, is that a fact? Like, is that a rumor that I heard, or are you willing to finally admit that this honestly happened?
I think that happened. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Pretty sure that happened. I do remember. I'm pretty sure that happened. I did have I'm pretty sure the one time my Marathi did get a pen thrown at it. That was an interesting time. I played at a teams event with it. That was a good time. When I got a pen thrown at Marathi.
All right, so would you say that you're an elf like, because obviously you've talked, at least, I mean, apart from Flesh Eater Courts, 2 of those armies are elf based. Are you naturally drawn to those, or what was it that drew you to those armies in particular? The narrative, the lore, the box art, like, what is it that inspires you when you look at armies? What makes you want to get them?
For example, Sylvaneth Durthu and the Kernel Hunters kind of like range was like a really cool point for me. And also how easy it was to paint. I was like, this is so good. And also their playstyle was so different to everyone because they were the first army with terrain, which I thought was dope. I was like, this is sick. Like, because when you turn up to the table at an event, everyone's like, crap, Sylvaneth, because you just cover the board. It was a great time. Like, you literally just go, turn 1, have all my wildwoods, and you just watch your opponent just concede in 2 turns. And then with Doors of Cain, it was a whole female army, which I thought was really cool. So that's what drew me to it. I thought that was really cool. And then the book came out, and I still enjoyed it with the book, but it was too easy at the time. It was that time where they had what was the highest win rate they had?
80%. Yeah, they had an 80% win
I
rate
dropped off
for a significant amount of time.
Yeah, it was significant. So what drew me was like the elves, and it was just mainly like the aesthetics, really. Like, dark elves I really liked. Like, when it came to like, when I saw Warhammer Fantasy as a kid, I always liked the wood elf or the dark elf range. I thought they were really cool. So now with adult money, I can get both.
Yeah, that's true.
I was like, I can have both. And then I got back to Flesh Eaters though after though. So give you an idea why I got into Flesh Eaters. The Terrorgeist model is one of my favorite monster models. I think it's one of the coolest ones like they've made.
Oh, really?
And then what got me back into it, I just thought it was really cool. I don't know if you saw this, but I painted all my Flesh Eater Court monsters as Pokemon.
Okay.
So I have a yellow one. I had a yellow one for Zapdos, a blue one for Articuno, and a red one for Moltres, and a purple one for Lugia.
Nice.
So I painted them as Pokemon.
And did you? And are they
It's
like
great.
that now? You didn't plan to do it. You did that. You achieved that aim.
Yeah, I did a Crystal Gore list.
Oh
And I
God.
just painted it as that. Yeah, it was
Okay.
great. I was like, and I would like submitted. I think it was like a New Zealand event. I submitted my list with the names of the Pokemon, and like, the Notorious guys were just like, "What an idiot! Like, who is this kid?" And yeah, it was a great time. Crystal Gore was fun. I really
Did
liked
you
it.
did you end up doing quite well with that army?
I came second at that event.
Oh, there we go. There we go. But again, this was during the time
Yeah,
when
that
they
was
were a very strong army, right? Will's in the chat.
yeah. This was true
I don't know if
when
Will's is your mate, but Will's is not
is it
impressed
in
with your
chat?
army choices so far. Uh, he's like Daughters of Cain, Flesh Eater Courts at their height.
Yeah,
So the question that's being asked right now
yeah.
is obviously you
Like
picked up. Go on.
no, what were you gonna say?
No, you go for it. What were you going to say?
I was gonna say it was Crystal Gore. The only thing that made Crystal Gore was so strong was the like Ghoul King on Terra guy striking first and like double piling in. Like that was the most messed up time. And yeah, but like it was. I then looked at Holomorn. Do you know much about Holomorn? Like that
Is,
that thing. So
yeah.
I ran a list at like the Dwellers event with like 9 horrors with Royal Mordants, and when I turn up to the table, and people are like, "Oh, so what's the threat ranges of the horrors and stuff?" And I say 46 inches maximum, and they just look at you, being like, "What the hell is going on?" And yeah, that was not that there. I rated the Holomorn list more than any other Feck list because it was just stupid what you could do.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's one of the things about books. When you look at the book, sometimes you look at a book and you think, "Here's the obvious power build," like Halahart when
Yeah.
you'd read through the cities, obviously. But then people start working on stuff that's a little off that initial line, and they start looking at the different subfactions or just different ways. I know I've been running on Tabletop Simulator. I've been running the Hos Arcanum Tzeentch list a couple of times now, which was fun. Me and Darren got our first turn in yesterday against each other in a kind of matchup. He was running Elita's Sacrament list of all things. Really fun to talk about. So yeah, but it's nice. It's different, right? So it's fun playing those off the obvious list, and then there's the things that's off the obvious list. I think.
Yeah.
And that's obviously fun. But a couple of questions. How do you still rate the Daughters of Cain book in the current gaming meta?
They are so strong still. They
Yeah.
are like I've been playing some games, so I'm redoing my daughters at the moment. I've got some cool conversion ideas that I want to do with it and stuff. So I've been playing them on the tabletop sim and everything, which has been good. It's just not the same as the real thing. And it's been great. The only game that I've lost so far out of like the 8 or so games I've had plus with them was against Ozark Bone Reapers against this guy, and I pretty much had him like the whole way. Like I was like, cool, I feel confident. And then he won the turn 3 to 4 priority in Border War, and he saved himself by being able to kill everything first before I got to with his catapults. But they're so strong. They're pretty darn good. Hagnar is still brutal. Like it's just
Still
ridiculous.
really, really strong. Obviously, there's some big rumours that the Daughters of Cain book is going to get a rework within this year.
Yeah.
What things would you like to see change in the Daughters of Cain book?
I would like to see if we're talking about are we talking about like new models or just general things that we want to see?
Let's say no new models. Let's just say what things would
Cool.
you like to see, like rules wise change, like the sub factions.
Okay.
How can you make some of the better sub factions, etc.
You ready? You're gonna love
Yeah,
this.
I'm
So
ready.
what I want is Blessing of Cain, right? The
Mhm.
one that gives it 5 up rerollable. I want Blessing of Cain to be making it a 5 up, so it just increases your thing by 5 up, not making it reroll, but make the devoted trait, like the devoted disciples trait, the reroll thing. So pretty much what they'll do is for like this is for Hagnar, for example. If they just turn because the thing that makes Hagnar way too good is that everyone gets a 5 up thing and then one unit gets the rerollable ward save. But I think it should be the other way around, and people will not have any complaints about it. Wouldn't make Hagnar the obvious choice, if that makes sense.
You don't think? How come?
It's because everyone likes Hagnar because the 5 up death save is like saving like about a third of them, while the other ones you're saving about like a sixth of the saves when you're taking damage. That's why you don't see like Drake F and Calibron stuff on. There's still some really strong builds in those ones there, but like to make Hagnar not obvious, if they just switched Blessing of Cain and the Devoted like rules over, then you'll have an even playing field with like every other temple, and then it'll just be coming down to like artifacts and like what can be in a battalion. I want to see more wizards is one thing. I know we didn't say new models, but like a way to like make a hag a proper wizard, so then you can get like access to like a spell lore and stuff, just because the Medusae or just having Marathi isn't really worth it. As in like they're like, it's just too small.
So a spell lore would be cool. I wouldn't. I think
like
something quite fun would be a spell lore for the different temples, a bit like you see with Cities of Sigmar. That would be quite fun, even if it's like a one of three. That would be fun.
Or even like prayers, like just having prayers and stuff, because it's a very much a prayer army. One thing I really hope they don't do is put a terrain piece on it.
Why? What are your feelings on terrain pieces?
It's just like, because I know what it would look like. It would just be a massive thing of the of Cain. I just know what it looks like, and I'm just like, you just know what it is. It's one of those terrain pieces where like if they're going to do it, make it like pretty much think outside the box, like maybe like a destroyed avatar of Cain or something. One thing that I really, really want to see in the book, which I literally just had on the tip of my tongue, it was freaking, I want, holy crap, I just had it in the top of my head. You were talking about prayers, and I actually completely forgot. This is terrible.
Terrain piece?
Oh, make Bloodstalkers freaking good. That'll be great.
Okay.
They're just hot trash right now.
So they're the bow snakes.
They're the bow snakes. They're hot trash. They're cool models. They're just not worth it. Another thing that I would really like is similar to what you said about the spell lore.
So is there? Well, the spell lore's been kind of debunked in the chat by Dadhammer. Big shout out to him. It's saying obviously Marathi's narrative is that she doesn't want the other witches to gain any magical dominance or supremacy. So I think she has it outlawed. She might even have it flat outlawed in their society, other than her being. Yeah, I think. And the Medusae are kind of her like personal bodyguard, aren't they? The snakes.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I would like. There's like one thing that I really like is I like how with the points they made Sister Slaughter and Witch Elves the same, but now I just think they need to have less attacks. Is one thing I want to see. It's too many dice. Because when you have Witch Elves with 4 attacks each, it gets a bit ridiculous. Like, I ran that for 3 months, and I was over dice, and that's why I went back to Sylvan F. There was a few other things I really would like to see. It was just...
do you think that the dice is fine as long as you don't have to do any rerolls? Like,
I think the rerolls is necessary, because just the way the army works, like, how I can describe it, it's like, they are supposed to pretty much like get stronger because they're just so blood like thirsty, like witch elves kind of thing. And yeah, I would say it's just like when you hear that like a witch elf has 4 attacks, and then like what's another troop that will be a similar amount of points, like thralls, for example, right? They have like 1 or 2 attacks or something. It's just
but thralls are decent. Like, thralls are genuinely good. They have like they don't compare to eels, unfortunately. So it's never going to work out for them because they get a good mechanic. They get rerolls. I think I like to see less reroll. I like to see less rerolls in the game generally.
I remember to say.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I can understand that. There's a bit too many, but I want avatars to stop activating by turn 3 because I want to see more avatars on foot running around.
Okay. What about like what about an avatar subfaction that's just got loads of avatars? You use them as battle line. Avatars as battle line.
Or hear me out, right? Take a temple where the avatar statues just all come to life automatically. So it's just one temple where if you have the avatars on the table, they're like you don't have to roll for it. They're active.
Okay. All right. So, but what you're trying to say is you want to see more dynamic list writing available. So like being able to take
Yeah.
loads of not witch elves avatars, or have some different spell laws or abilities. Yeah, I'd like to see Doomfire
Yeah.
Warlocks get something as well. Like they never saw the table, never saw the light of day. It'd be fun to see something that benefits them. I think.
Doomfires were good. Doomfires were good before the book came out when they were a battle line because they were a battle line choice before the book came out,
Yes, they were.
and then they took that away from them.
Yeah, which is a shame.
So yeah, like it's a shame. Like when I was pretty sad because I was like, because I was converted. You want to hear me out, right? I
I'm listening.
hate the Doomfire Warlock models. I
Why?
hate them. Now, if anyone goes on, right, anyone go in the web store right now, look at their hair and tell me how their hair does not remind you of semen.
What? Why? Why does it remind you of semen?
Yeah. Look at it. Like, how bad is that?
It looks pretty atrocious. No, I don't. I don't agree with you. I'm going to go look right now. Let's go find out. It doesn't look like semen, man. You lunatic.
It does.
Like,
it
doesn't-
does.
Okay,
Like it's so thin, and then the ends have this massive round bit on them.
round bit. You got a bit posh there. Round bit.
Like-
It's got a round bit.
Like how, like they got this like it's like hang on, let's just check this out, right? They're like this, and there's like this massive lump at the end of the hair. It just looks like a semen.
What?
They just look like semen.
Do you think it looks like semen, or do you think it looks like an actual sperm?
It just looks like sperm. I'm looking it up right now. Doomfire Warlocks. Doomfire Warlocks.
No, I don't agree.
I think the chat's pissed off at me.
No, I just don't think anyone agrees with you. I think this is
Like-
a very you thing. This is just in your head. You can always just change their. You can always just stick the Shadow
it looks
Rider.
like semen.
No, you could always just stick the Dark Rider heads on them instead.
No, so what I did was what me and a couple of other people were thinking of doing was getting the Dread Knight, so like the Dark Elf Cold One models, and then just like put Witch Elves on them and just say they're doing
Why are you so triggered by these? It's
just
so
because
funny.
they look way more badass, and also Cold Ones.
You broke up. You
I
broke
can
up
see
a
in the
bit there,
chat,
bro.
but everyone's just like, this is the weirdest thing.
It
Yeah.
is weird. Yeah, I can hear you. It's just there's a bit of a delay. I think. I think anyone
Okay.
here in the chat says it's not. Doesn't look like Seba, but listen, bro. If that's what you're getting, if that's where you are in your heart, then who am I to argue with you? That's fine. Smorg says Doomfires are excellent as Cities of Sigmar. Unlimited range, flat 6 mortal wound spell through the portal. That's a pretty good thing. And DJ Batman says
Yeah.
you're going to get us demonetized. Yeah.
Whoops, my
But
bad.
yeah, all use the Sisters of Slaughterhead. But they're a cool piece. Like those units that are those elven units that are wizards. I'm surprised actually. Hey, Positive Victim. Sculptor was watching something about Mary at the time of the sculpt. Nice. I definitely agree with that. So how do you feel? I've got a couple of questions about how you feel about some of the upcoming releases. So how do you feel about the High Elves? How do you feel about the Lumineth Realm Lords? Anything there looks like semen or possibly a small penis? Anything there that's made you a bit interested? Or like, what's your overall feeling?
So this is the thing, right? So I like how they made Light Elves, because that means we're soon going to get like Shadow Elves kind of thing, which we've had seen with that warband that they like showed, with a bit more shadow theme. But like, I really like, there's not one thing in the range that I like. Like,
Really? How
but the
come?
thing is, though, like, but it's a bit too like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. I think that the reason why I like Sylvaneth, because it's like this natural aesthetic with Flesh Eaters, they're like half like ripped apart flesh, and then with Doors of Cain, it's just like there's like heaps of skin, and like it's pretty much very edgy. They're edgy enough for me. They're not like waifu or anything. They're just it's just not it for me.
So they're not edgy enough for you. They're a bit too.
But
They're a bit too on the nose.
they're just not edgy enough, and they honestly, I can describe it, and this is just my thoughts on it. It feels like it's a army that they had projects for in Warhammer Fantasy Battle, because it's too rank and file for me. Like the poses are just too rank and file, where it just reminds me of like old world.
Oh, really? I thought the horses were very dynamic, in my opinion, as were the bowmen. I think they look like
I just don't like the
tradition.
horses.
Okay, I think they look like more like a traditional army as you would expect it to. Like it's kind of like the KO do look like the KO kind of remind me of exactly what you'd think. They're kind of like a mercantile group of just like dudes. They don't look like an army,
Yeah,
whereas the OCR
yeah,
Bone Reapers look like an army. You're like these guys are like the Mortek Guard look like rank and file because they
yeah.
are an army that basically goes and battles rank and file out there, and I feel like
Yeah.
the elves look the same as well. I think that's a good vibe from the elves personally. But
The thing that I like with them is the lore, but the cool thing about the Lumineth now is like the lore that's going to be built around them. Like it's just a new army that we're going to like read about.
hmm,
Um, but the thing is, I'm never going to go up to a player who plays them being like, I hate the models. Like it sucks. It's for some people. Like I know, like some people are so obsessed, and I respect their view on it. Like yeah, that's cool. Like I'm not going to say that like they're terrible or anything like that because I know that they're going to be a super strong army from what I've read on the White Dwarf article.
hmm.
Like Teclis is insane. That's just ridiculous what he's doing.
Uh,
Um,
He is really good, and as you can see, he's got a fan over in Plymouth. Says Texas is the best model ever. Some divided opinion around the world about that. Big shout out to Math Mallow for subscribing, by the way, you angel. Is there a reason Marathi outlawed Magic because she doesn't want them figuring out? Winner Dave, I reckon you'll get that answer in the chat. I reckon they're going to be super strong, Liam. Is there a point where you don't like the models, but the army book is strong enough that you'll pick up the models?
no,
Oh, really?
no, no. Like for example, like you could come up like for example, which book was it? There was a book where Slanesh. This is a perfect example, right? When Slanesh before Slanesh came out, I was starting the Slanesh army, and I read the book, and I loved the Keeper of Secrets model. I thought that army, everything about it, I loved the Fiends. I thought the Fiends were the best model. Awesome. And then I read the rules, and immediately could see that that army is messed up. Like it's just messed up. And then we saw it happening in tournaments where they're taking over the scene, and I sold my army straight away after the release happened. Yeah.
So is there a thing where? So would you say that you are quite interested in giving your opponents an interactive game?
Um, I try to. People in the chat or people who've played me will say differently. Just because some of the lists that I've written for some armies, some people did not enjoy. But I would say it's more for the fact that like I can tell with an army's too like click and go, if that makes sense, where like there's no room for error. Like as in like if you make an error, like you are I don't know, I'm not saying like there's no room for error, like there is so much room for error, like you can make a mistake and you don't have to pay for it. If that makes
Yes.
sense?
Yes.
And like Slanesh was a clear example where like, oh, your hero died, the one that does all the damage. That's all right because I get points for that, and I can summon another one. It's just yeah, and that's kind of like trying to show the best example is like for example, Doors of Cain. Everyone thought they were a very click and go army, and you could see it in some metas than others. But I know for a fact, right, that there was some like error. If you make an error with daughters, like if all your hags were too open, or your slaughter queen on cauldrons down, or whatever, you are on the back foot because you're relying on those key things, and your army just crumbles. Um, and yeah, and that's it. Same with Aussie Bone Reapers. There's so much room for like there's like so much room with like errors and stuff, where like that army can either destroy someone or you can get destroyed by them, unless you run like Petrifix, Nagash, and then yeah,
Yeah.
and then
I could
Flesh Eater
understand what you're saying.
Courts,
Please
and then
continue.
Flesh Eater Courts again. Yeah, Flesh Eater Courts again. There was that's an army where you can make errors and stuff. Like for example, when I ran the Gristlecore army, where if it was just beasts and then like I had to summon my bodies on, like I literally have a massive shooting target on my arch regents because if they die, I don't have bodies. So there was like a massive thing like that. So I had to play very carefully of like where I'm placing like all that stuff. So I even know it's a common theme, but I like strong armies. but I still want a challenge when it comes to the table. And I also still want to be able to sit down and enjoy painting the army. Like that's the three factors for me. So
Okay.
yeah, and
So
I
so it's really
and I ran
important.
Sylvaneth for like 3 years.
Oh well, yeah, of course. So now's the time to talk about that. I was going to bring up that Sylvaneth had their new book release, and sorry, just to
Yep.
finish off what you were saying. Obviously, people are really excited about Lumineth. We thought we'd see them go on pre-order this week, but it seems like that's not the
Nah,
case. So
I'd
maybe
give that another week.
maybe a
I
couple.
give it another week.
Maybe a
Yeah.
couple. I mean,
Um.
we only really got one actual article about the Lumineth stuff last week. Oh, maybe we got two. We got the Light of Altharion and another one.
Yeah.
But then most of the information we picked up from that White Dwarf. So maybe we get the information slower through the official sources that we think, and then that means the Sons of
Well,
Behemoth coming out as well.
generally,
Go on.
if something, I remember with White Dwarf, there was something where like they would release an army, like information in the White Dwarf, and it'll be on pre-order at the end of the month. So the White Dwarf was to get people hyped up for the pre-order.
Hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yes.
So like I'm expecting it to be next week because we're in the mid of the week.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah,
which is fun. And for anyone excited about collecting the Lumineth Realm Lords, I hope you have a great time. Very much
yeah.
so. So
I
don't.
as I
don't
said, as I said, it's for some people.
It's definitely for some people, but not for this guy. Lumineth and just budget
But
Sylvaneth.
not for me.
But so this year we obviously had also the release of the Sylvaneth Battle Tome. Um,
Yeah.
and as a lifelong Sylvaneth player, how did you feel about it when it came out, and how do you feel about it now, some months on?
So first time, so I was one of the people, and I remember you and I talked about it heaps when the book accidentally came out and that poor intern got fired. I hope he got sued.
Yeah,
Um, when the book actually came out, I was like immediately like download it, get it, and then before it got shut down, and then just yeah, and then I read it through. And I was like, there's some builds here. There's something you can do about it because the meta at the time was different. But then when the book actually came out, the meta was completely different. Like it just changed. And that's when I realized that the Sylvaneth book was behind. Um,
was it
Redwood.
behind?
Um,
Was it behind or really bad?
it, when
Like,
it first came out, it was average. Like I would say average, but now as time goes on, that book is way part. Like it needs another update now. Like it's bad. Like it's a really bad book compared to others. Because who got released after them?
City of Sigmar, Ossiarch Bone Reapers got released after them.
Yeah.
The Warclans book, the Ogre More Tribes book, Tzeentch book, Seraphon book all got released after Sylvaneth. But to give you some
Yeah.
indication, before Sylvaneth got released, Skaven, Flesh Eater Courts, they all got released pre.
Yeah.
Fire Slayers got released before Sylvaneth. So all of those books came out before,
Yeah.
and they're a clear power level above Sylvaneth, right? So it's a bit of a
Yeah.
bump in
So
the
those are
road.
the Jervis books. So I feel like Sylvaneth got written by was it Sam?
I don't
Is that
know.
the other rule
I
writer?
mm.
I don't know their names, but I do know that like there's like two different rule writers, and you can tell immediately who wrote who. And I immediately, when I started reading that book, I'm like, this ain't a Jervis book. I immediately was like, this is not that book.
I know that
And
they're all not quality controlled by the same person because the quality control across
no
all
way.
of them is pretty.
It was just like there was a huge difference, and I played it. Like I played the new book for a few months. I played a Heartwood build, and with 9 Kurnos of Bows and 6 Scythes and Durthu with the re-rolling hits artifact and stuff. And it was good. Like there were some armies just couldn't handle it, and then there's armies like Skaven, but we're like, cool. I have like 120 bodies. I don't care. So it was a struggle street, and then I saw Laurie was doing well with them, but it was with a Dreadwood build that I kind of saw when I first opened the book as well. And that's when I was like, cool, this book is limited. Like, you can't do much. Like, they made Alariel terrible in the book.
Yes. Now that
And she used to be bold.
now we've seen some of the new rules for Teclis. How do you think Alarielle feels compared to Teclis?
Terrible. She is absolutely not worth it. She is not worth it. She needs, like, how can Teclis, right, get cut really, like, so Alariel is the queen of life or whatever, right? Goddess of life. How is she not freaking auto casting spells? How? Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's
Especially,
stupid. It's
or
completely stupid.
especially like life spells or something very similar. Yeah, and I think actually when you look at all
Yeah,
of the
like
big,
be like,
when you look at
oh
the big models, you've obviously got like top of the pile. Obviously, you've got your Archeons, your Nagashes. It looks like maybe your Teclises coming out, and there are some notably bad ones as well. Bloodthirsters, Stardrakes. The Stardrakes aren't bad, but they're like you look at a Stardrake, you think I want to do Reign of Stars, yeah.
yeah,
I might also like try and do some fighting with the Stardrake, but probably not tons of fighting. So
yeah.
there is some variance between the big models that are great, but yeah, Alarielle definitely missed the beat. And you don't think over time since that book released, there's been any like unlocking of the secret
No,
walkways of the Sylvaneth?
no,
No,
no. Haven't
just
looked at
flat
it.
no.
But no. To give you an idea, right? So my life, so I went Sylvaneth a bit, and then I got Ozark Bone Reapers, and then after Ozark Bone Reapers, I'm going back to Daughters. And usually my pattern is start a new army, then go back to Sylvaneth, start a new army, go back to Sylvaneth. The fact that I'm skipping Sylvaneth gives you an idea, but I don't see anything with them. There's actually something that you can do in Cities of Sigmar with the Living City with them, but nothing in the Sylvaneth book, which
Oh, so
sucks.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another question is then is like how did you feel and how do you still feel now about having a book? We talked about this a little bit before on the show as well. Like when people are genuinely passionate about a book coming out, or they're dispassionate about, like a book comes out and it seems incredibly strong or quite offensively powerful, and that can be quite difficult for you as a player, knowing that you spent a long time building an army, painting an army, you're going to go play. That's really hard. How do you feel about a book that does the opposite, that like really lets you down? Like how do you have you coped with it? Like I know it's sometimes it's just toy soldiers, you could just move on to your next army, but sometimes it's quite annoying. How do you express
Yeah.
that in a way that you think's constructive?
I think for me, right, so I don't know if anyone here follows me on Twitter or see my Twitter, you would know that I've converted Durfu heavily to a snake,
Mm.
to like using the Marathi body and the Durfu body. Like I just moved them all up and just did a huge kit bash conversion with it. And it took a lot of effort, but I built it when Sylvaneth was really strong. And I've really enjoyed it. But now it's kind of like that book kind of made me feel like, okay, cool, it's time to put the army in the display cabinet and probably just leave it there for now if there's another release or anything like that. Like, be like, cool, I'll just wait for the next book if there is one, if they change things up. So, yeah. It was, I wouldn't say it was disheartening. It was just like, it would just gave me the reason to be like, cool, there's no reason to take this army out again.
Okay, so you weren't overly like emotionally invested necessarily, and you didn't feel like because for some people
I
that's hard, right?
I've only ever raged about it's yeah, but the only time I've ever raged about a book that I was not happy with was Slanesh. Like I've never ever felt like something outrageous. Like it was one of those things when that book came out, it was so strong that it was a negative thing where I'm like, who the hell let this through? Like who did this? Because I was working on an army and I could immediately tell that like the community in Australia would be like, of course Liam has this army. So I was like, nah, I am like out. Take that out. And that was pretty disheartening because I was really excited to play Slanesh because I'd never had a Chaos army before. So I was super excited to have a Chaos army. But then now I was like, nah, not interested. So yeah,
And
it sucked.
what was it that turned you off specifically about them?
It was just the ridiculous rules. Really, 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 really ridiculous rules.
Okay,
It was just the whole like piling in last, like as in like 2-up activation, stopping, keeper spam. The summoning points did not add up correctly. It was just too good, and also the chain summoning mechanic that you could abuse. It was very, very, very. You could just tell that like it wasn't properly play tested. I'm not saying that play testers did a terrible job, but you could tell that they were just like, this is good enough. Let's put it on the shelf.
right. Okay,
So,
fair enough. So Yeah, I think it's always hard when a book comes out, especially if you want to play it and it's a little bit too strong. For myself, as I sit here painting blue horrors, I only want to give people a good experience of a game. But if your
Yeah.
good experience is going to be chuckling my balls off as I watch blue horrors stand there in your way, that's going to be great. uh, an AOS Atonement, Tim says, especially he feels the same way every time the new Corn book comes out, and Bloodthirsters are still just middle of the road, average at best, which I think is super fair because they do suck. But so during lockdown, while all this has been going on, I know that you've been playing some Tabletop Simulator. Have you
Yeah.
found how have you found those experiences?
It's not the same as the real thing, but it's really good for like I don't know, I think Tabletop Simulator is like a hidden gem where we've found something where instead of like let's just say you and I like let's say you wrote like a hard list of Zeech, right?
Yeah,
And you had to buy like three chickens and like a whole bunch of stuff. You had this weird game mechanic, right? The cool thing with Tabletop Simulator is you can go play it, play a few games with your mates, see how it is statistically and play wise. And if it doesn't work, you saved yourself $300 or something and like models.
and time
Like
building it
it's
and
cool for
painting
me to
it.
be like, and then realize that it's hot trash.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I think that part of it has been really good. Like it's really good for all those people who are like hardcore risk lighters and be like being like, okay, I've got this cool list, let's try it. Call up your mate, being like, hey, what are you up to tonight? Oh, nothing, cool. We're playing tabletop sim. Let's see if this army works instead of like proxying and stuff. Um, that's what I like about it. After this whole isolation thing, will I use it as much? Not really. I'll do it for the theory hammer, but I wouldn't be like, oh, instead of you coming over, let's just play on tabletop sim. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I think one of the things about the community as is that one of the reasons we enjoy what we do is we get to go and see people and hang out, and that's half of the fun, really, in most of the situations.
Yeah,
Well, it definitely is for me, and it's one of the things that I want to continue doing it. But I agree. I think it's also useful. It was really fun doing the coverage this weekend because obviously we had a tournament this weekend where we did the coverage, and
yeah,
it didn't feel like we were back in an event, but it did feel pretty good. It
yeah,
felt like we were getting close to it. It was also fun seeing. I think what's also really fun is because there's such, like you say, a financial and time commitment with putting some of these armies on the tabletop that you often don't see super weird and janky lists, or by the time you've
yeah,
written the weird and janky list, it's taken a time to do, whereas it probably takes you at best 30 minutes to set that weird janky list up on Tabletop Simulator. Give it a try and
yeah,
play it at the tournament. So we saw a super cool Legion and Chaos Ascendant playing this weekend. We saw the super cool Chariot list
yeah.
playing this weekend. Which is fun. We've started to see Seraphon because we've not actually seen Seraphon at any major
So
events, but we know on Tabletop
I was
Simulator
about to
they're just
say,
kicking everyone's face in.
yeah. The cool thing is the annoying part as well with this whole isolation thing is we don't get to see what Seraphon's like on the table. Like now with tabletop sim, we can in a way, and then we can like in a way when like DW be like what's your feedback? We can now we fix it. If that makes sense.
You
Like
broke up a bit there, so
we
you just
have now like actual.
say that again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. It's
Oh, so pretty much what I was saying was now thanks to sim, we can now give proper feedback to GW on like what we can do with Seraphon. It's clearly a strong one because I think they came first, third, and fifth or something on the weekend.
They did. They did very well. I'm in fact actually hoping to question Matthew this week. Matthew Gottesberg, who's won it twice now with Seraphon. So I'm going to have a little chat with him on the stream about
Yeah,
about his experiences with it. And obviously we saw a Seraphon match play in the final, and I think we're starting to see it. What the thing about some of the ways that we're seeing these armies built is that I don't think we're even seeing all of the really good Seraphon builds. So I think that they are very strong. I think that's super fair for
yeah,
people to comment
like
on. Go on.
yeah, like I I'm interested to see what actually Seraphon is like on the actual proper tabletop.
Mm.
Um, and see how that goes. Like I'm very intrigued by it. Interesting enough, I've never like really like I looked at Seraphon as an army to start playing with when they were like average, but it just wasn't as exciting enough for me. Um, but I'm really glad that book got a proper update and they're actually strong. But I think they can dial down a bit with salamanders because they're just clearly the best choice.
I mean, they are clearly very, very good. I think it's some of their mechanics are also really interesting, but it might just shape it. It might be a case of just shaking the meta up. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I do think that one of the things that we saw at the weekend, twice actually, was we saw a Stormcast build with Croaking, so looking to do mortal wounds at range, and then we saw a
Yeah,
Croak build, Croak build in Seraphon, where it's looking to use Croak to do the mortal wounds with some Salamander backup. And I think one of the things about both of those builds is that they couldn't handle a flood of bodies in the first turn. Like they could do a lot of damage, they can't just do
yeah,
all of the damage. And a very interesting kind of, I would say, swing to the meta that we've had over the past 6 months is that um, there hasn't there during Slaanesh times, obviously, Flesh Courts times, there was a lot of like very strong alpha armies that would like get into your face with a load of
yeah,
bodies really early, and they were just like, "I'm gonna eat through your army." It's like, "Can you whittle me down in a turn?" And maybe the Seraphon can't do that in some cases. Whereas then there was like a period of time where it became about like movement, range, board control, and presence. And now Seraphon's kind of impact on the meta really is I think you have to ask yourself, can I get in their face again? Can I just get straight in their
yeah.
grill and deal with some of
Now,
their deal and overload them because they can probably push you out, but it's whether or not they can push you out in time. So it's really fascinating. But I agree with you. I think one of the coolest bits about Tabletop Simulator is we're starting to see what some of those lists might look like at tournaments when we finally have tournaments again in the future. So it's keeping the game kind of alive, I guess, in some ways.
yeah, like now, which army can we both think of that can get so many bodies across the line really quickly that wasn't at the event? I already know one, and that was Doors of Cain because I was super surprised that no one took Doors of Cain event because as we spoke about earlier, I feel like Doors of Cain have been forgotten in the meta
Uh,
completely.
I think so as well. I think there's a whole bunch of people. I mean, that's easy to do as well, because people want to run the new stuff or try the new things out. But Daughters of Cain are a solid army still, and very easy to maybe not very easy, but definitely could post some very big results. I think.
Yeah,
So
like
I
very, yeah, they're just still so strong. Like I thought I was gonna get my poo in when I was playing some of the armies, and they still have bite, which is good to see.
All right. Well, is that your advice for the end of the show? Would you say everyone look at your Daughters of Cain armies again, get them out on the table when you can?
I would say, even though I would still say flesh eaters, like I've been looking at flesh eaters again recently, just to see like what you can do because horrors now are getting cheaper and cheaper. They're like almost at 100 points now, and you can do some ridiculous stuff with them. I reckon for the current future meta, during isolation, panels that you really enjoy, and they probably will be good by the end of isolation. So
Uh,
like, yeah, I reckon like honestly, it's just like during this time, like I just want to paint models that I like the look of, which is Doors of Cain. They're a good army. I also got a Catacross to paint up as well with my OBR. Um, yeah, I just really want to get it. Just pretty much paint what you like during this isolation time because it is a tough time and you want to enjoy it. You don't want to make it a chore. So don't all everyone pick up a Doors of Cain army because you probably don't enjoy painting 60 Witch Elves or 20 Blood Sisters. So
yeah,
yeah, that's
you
my
got to be a
advice.
weird,
Just paint what you enjoy.
you got to be a weirdo to do that, in my opinion. Like I back in Warhammer Fantasy Battle days, I painted up 10 Witch Elves, and that was me done. That was me done. I never painted up the rest of them, to be honest. But that was a fun
So
time.
Dan Brewer's army,
Mm.
he only painted 30 Witch Elves and he gave the army to me because he was just like, I'm done. Like he just said that was it. Like I can't do it. And I was like, yeah, you have to be a crazy man to paint 90 Witch Elves. And that's why when I see Chuck Moore have like 120 Witch Elves, I was like, that's psychopath. Psychopath.
You might be right. That's very true. Well, thank you everyone for joining us live. I know Donald in the chat was saying that he was annoyed that you've been talking about elves the whole time, but that's okay. Nathan will be on later tonight to talk destruction and all other things. Me, Nathan, and James will be here to talk later, so please do join us for then. Liam, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about just being you. You're an angel.
I try and be the weeb.
Our Warhammer weeb. There we go. Thank you to everyone who has joined us live. You guys are great. I can't wait to see you later or tomorrow. We've got some great guests lined up this week for the stream streak, so please do join us. Big thank you to everyone who's watched us live or listened to the podcast. Please stay hydrated. Thank you to the Honest Wargaming Patreons. Have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy,